Hello, and welcome to the Switch Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Savage, and today I have another special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jon Robertson. I'm a professor here at UE. I'm Director of Creative Technologies, and I led the sound team on the location shoot on the film, and we're also doing audio post-production on the film.
Okay, so I know that you you said you led the sound team. What kinds of how many people did you have for that?
Well, the class, we have 8 people in the class, and we had 6 students on location. So with me, there's 7 of us there. So it was a big sound team, bigger than we need, but educational purposes, I gave everyone a chance to rotate through the different roles that we would perform on a sound team.
And I guess I'm not really familiar. Well, I did take one of your classes before, so I am pretty decently familiar with everything. But I guess some of the people who are watching, they may not know as much. So I guess could you go through some of the equipment and things that you guys used?
Yeah. Well, first we can kind of break down what is a sound team on a film. Yeah. Really you can have a full, complete sound team with just 3 people. You'll have your main audio mixer who's controlling the mix of all of the mics and the recording device, and they may be managing the wireless mics as well, but they're kind of overseeing the whole audio side of the shoot. Then you'll have the boom operator, very hands-on person who is right there with the actors, putting the boom mic right in their face, getting it just right out of frame, getting the boom mic as close as possible. Then that boom operator also has a pretty big role, just interfacing with the actors. Hey, do you need anything? Do you want to adjust your wireless mic? The boom operator typically will also be managing the way in which the actors are wearing their mics, their wireless mics. And then we'll have another role that's a little more flexible. It's called the sound utility or the audio utility. This person just kind of is operating on all levels, just do you need to run and go fix a wireless mic? Get us some batteries. This cable is in the way. Let's get this cable out of the way. Let's address the cable. So with the head of the team is your mixer, boom operator, really hands-on, working directly with the actors, and then a sound utility person is just the runner, kind of troubleshooting, fixing things. So that's the way that we kind of separated out the roles throughout the day. One student or myself would be at the mixer, which is we have the very special mixer. The company is named Sound Devices, which I always laugh at because what is it? It's a sound device. What's it called? It's a sound device. But anyway, so the company Sound Devices, it's the leader in audio recording in film. It's just the absolute leader. And we've got a 4-channel Sound Devices that has 4 mic preamps and then 2 auxiliary inputs, so it can record up to 6 channels at a time. So I would be either there at the mixer checking things out, and then I would hand it off to a student to actually do the recording, which is the person who interfaces with the director or the assistant director, and the assistant director will say, are you ready? You'll say, you need anything to go? We're about to get going. Then the mixer will hit record and say sound speed, which is an old terminology when tape reels had to get up to speed before we were recording. And at any rate, so you just say sound speed, and then that means, hey, we are good. We're recording. Our team is recording. Now the director and, the assistant director do whatever you need to do, but we're ready to go. So I had a student at the mixer. For every shoot, you have to have someone monitoring the mix and then getting it rolling and then taking notes. So we take detailed notes of what is the slate, what was said on the slate. Was it take 1 of scene 5, and you take a note of that, and then just notes generally of what happened in the scene with the audio if there are any issues. And then we rotated very frequently throughout the day the boom operator position, because that is an exhausting position. You're holding a fairly heavy boom pole with a mic on it over your head, using muscles that you're not really used to using, and it's just exhausting. Your arms start shaking, and it's truly, truly exhausting. And mentally too, because you're moving the mic to aim it at the actor, just these minute movements, because the mic is very directional, so you need to be really aimed right at the actor when they're talking, and then move it to the next actor, and it's really, really a tricky job. So we rotated that, so everyone got some time on the boom pole as the boom operator, and if you weren't on the mixer or on the boom, then you were sound utility, and I would just be like asking them to do things, whatever they needed to do. We have a boom pole. We have a couple of shotgun mics. On a film set, we use shotgun mics. They're very directional, aimed directly at an actor, or we can use a less directional mic that's more forgiving. That's like a cardioid pattern mic. It's a wider directional pattern, so you can more easily pick up 2 actors at the same time, versus a highly directional mic. You can really only pick up 1 actor at a time, so you have to be super precise. So that's kind of how we ran the day.
Okay. And you've been doing, or I guess, how long have you been doing, sound work, per se?
I've been around it since, undergrad, so just a long, long time. And then, my life in the sound world is long and very varied. The first time I really did film proper was like probably 2014 was like my first proper time working on film, and then from there it's just because I have many areas of specialty, from composing to just specifically theater, sound design, musicals, film, composing for film, working on location, just different things. And so I've had so many different roles that I'm able to kind of fit myself in, like the sound world, just like, I can do this, I can do this, but because I've been around it for so long. I've been composing for electronic media like since, not the olden times, it's still digital media, but it's like 1998. It's like MIDI and like, it was digital audio tape, and, it's like.
So basically, like, since like that stuff, like, I guess, started to exist,
when there was like this transition into digital audio in the 90s, but it took a long time for the transition to fully coalesce until we were in a totally digital world, which now we are really. Especially audio. We're recording to hard drives, or solid state drives or flash drives, but we're not recording to tape ever,
Yeah.
You might still in film, you might see some boutique things that, let's record on film, but film is mostly digital. Audio is all digital. I mean, we're not going to record on tape anymore. Long-winded way of saying, yes, I got into it at the transition of from analog to digital. I've never had the experience. I mean, I wish I did, but I just never had the experience of recording to magnetic tape other than cassette tapes. I mean, that counts, but I never reel-to-reel tape. Just that was before my time. I was right at the cusp of that. There's this things called digital audio tapes for a while that were kind of it was tape, but it was digitized tape. It didn't last very long, but anyway. So I've been recording in the digital world for a long time. I mean, all things considered, it's a pretty long time. I remember I was so excited when I got from my first MIDI keyboard, and I could plug the keyboard into the computer. Like, I was figuring it out. It's like in high school, I was like, oh, how do you do this? And I can play all these different sounds and record them in, and change the sounds. It was a really exciting time.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, well, did you have to like use did you have to use like MIDI for the Switch?
MIDI is a huge part of my life. The director, who everybody knows, Tommy, is also composing the music for it. And when you play on a piano keyboard and connect it via USB, it's still connecting via MIDI. So, we don't. My keyboard is old, and it still has like 5-pin MIDI cables, but USB is still transmitting MIDI messages. And so when you record anything that you play, you're recording note on messages, note off messages, velocity of how hard you hit the note. If you're using a pedal, if you're using a mod wheel, all of those are just numbers streaming in a specific protocol that's MIDI messages. And there's a library of all of the MIDI messages that exist. It's a very simple like protocol, but with that you just take those note on, note off numbers, and then you can manipulate it in your DAW, and you just stretch the note, transpose the note, make it louder, make it quieter. And so like all of the music that Tommy composed for this is composed using like MIDI instruments.
Oh, okay. And like, I guess to like kind of clarify, like MIDI is like, you mean like the like electronic instruments that you like will you'll plug it into the instrument and then from the instrument to the computer, right?
To the computer. It's like, the most common thing you'll see is a piano keyboard that's like maybe 60 keys or smaller, just a couple octaves, and you plug it into the computer, and most of them will not have a tone generator on it, a sound engine on it, so it doesn't really do anything until you plug it into the computer and then pass those MIDI messages through a virtual instrument. So you open up software that has banks of virtual instruments, and you tell your keyboard to be whatever virtual instrument you assign there as the MIDI messages are going to that virtual instrument. It could be anything that you want. There's thousands of these things. An organ, a drum pad, whatever. Like, just the sky's the limit. And some things sound great. Some things still sound like fake and like MIDI, and they're like, oh, that sounds cheesy. But these virtual instruments are getting better and better, and really can fake a whole orchestra pretty convincingly using virtual instruments. So, but yeah, it's like you said, this is how you make like electronic music is just, it's all MIDI going into different virtual instruments.
Okay. And I know you were talking about like different sound effects, making sound effects earlier. Did you have to like make any sound effects for the Switch or?
For the Switch, we did a really fine job as the sound team, and so what that means is we were able to capture a lot of the production sound. So you would isolate production sound from post-production sound, and something that you didn't capture during the shoot, you'll have to do it in post-production. But we captured a lot on production. So we have a lot of great production sound. Like we got coverage of all the different human movements, like feet, just clothing, just like moving things around. But as you're watching the film, there are some things that you're like, oh, that's kind of missing. Like, I wish I could hear that. And those things we're bringing in post-production. For example, here's an obvious one that everybody has to do in post-production is add your door slams, your door openings, things like that happen off camera that we didn't have a mic on them,
Yeah.
So we're adding. That's an obvious thing. So then extrapolate from there, just anything that you're watching the film and you're just kind of wishing, we need something to bring this to life. It sounds dead. There's a lot of handling of plates and food, and those we're not miking those. We on production we're so heavily focused on the dialogue that we're not going to aim a mic at a plate to capture that. So we're going to add that in post-production, because you see someone putting down a plate, even if they put that plate down so quietly and in production it didn't make a sound, when we see it, it looks like we're missing something if we don't hear it, even just a little sound. So this is how you bring life to the film, is you give all of these small movements a sound that in reality maybe it was never there, but in picture we have to hear it. We're just so tuned to seeing something and hearing it, the film sounds flat if you have all of these human movements that don't have some kind of associated sound with it. So we fake that in post-production.
So like basically the goal is for like the sound team is to add all of those sounds obviously, but to like make sure you bring the film to life. Like,
yeah. And detail, like creating you could call it an audio scene, where if you were to close your eyes, you can understand what's happening, even without looking at the film. If you close your eyes and all you hear is dialogue, it's like someone's voice is just floating in space. It doesn't make sense. Like even right now, probably through this mic, you're hearing the chair creak, you're hearing my clothes move, and that's bringing this podcast to life, that there's a human being behind these voices. And we're noisy creatures, and so we when you close your eyes while you're watching a film, you want to hear those human beings existing and not just voices floating off, and otherwise it sounds so fake and dead.
Never thought about that when it comes to like movies. Like if I can close my eyes and like imagine like what's going on.
You can get it. You understand it. Maybe not totally, but you get it. You can picture to some degree what's happening. The best sound design is full of those clues that just with your ears you know what's happening.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like horror movies, of like, because when I watch, I'm not really good with horror movies, so sometimes when like something kind of scary or like suspenseful is happening on the screen, like I'll like close my eyes and like I can almost like imagine like what is going to happen, and that's most likely because of the sound work that was done.
Oh, for sure.
To add in all those sound effects and everything.
Horror movies are almost a special case for sound design. You just really have to do everything over the top. Everything is over the top in sound. Like reality is boring. Like the real sounds are boring. You got to take that. You've got to take that, the idea of that sound, and then multiply it by 10 and give it so much more depth and complexity. And this is a paradox. Why is it that in real life we accept the sound world as it is? We're never saying, oh, I wish I could hear that person's feet louder. But when you're watching a film, especially when you're tuned into it, you're like, their feet sound fake, they sound fake because it's too quiet. But in reality, that's what they sound like. But in the film, we had to really amp it up and really accentuate all of these things, and then it sounds real. It's a paradox.
I wonder if that's because in real life you hear more than you would like if it was a mic. Like you can hear even like the tiniest sounds, like whatever humming is going on, or like the blowing of like maybe the AC. Like you can hear that, and you can hear like I don't know, some car like a mile away, driving like in your direction or something. Like I wonder if that's kind of like why you don't really think about it in real life, but on like a video, maybe like the mic was quiet, maybe it was too loud, or something like that, and maybe that's why like you think about it and you're like, it doesn't really sound real.
And there's another, exactly, and I think there's like another layer to it, that in real situation, I mean, we just call it life. Why am I saying real situations? In our life, we have an amazing filtering capacity for our ears. We can sit here and maybe there's a lawnmower going, but after a while we just tune it out and we're able to have a conversation. We have this filtering capacity that it's like direct our ears just to the things that matter most. Unless, of course, there's an emergency, then suddenly we're taken out of that and we're focused on that thing. And some people can do this to better or lesser extent. Some people are very good at tuning things out. Some people hear everything, and it's very distracting to them in life. But when we're watching a film, we have to filter out the real world. Like if we're in a theater, we're filtering out the people around us. If we're at home, we're filtering out just the sound of the home, and we're trying to focus just on the film. And something about that directing our attention to the film, we are like begging for more in the sound world, and you don't, but then the other side of that is that you don't realize that you're missing it until you watch a film that has poor sound design. Then you realize, oh, this sounds so dead, and it just doesn't sound, I don't know, it's just not, I'm not connecting to it emotionally. I'm not pulled into it dramatically. So what I'm trying to say is we take it for granted. Great sound design, we just take it for granted. We're like, oh yeah, it's working on subconscious level that we don't really think about the sound design. But then when it's gone and it's missing, then you realize that has been something you've been appreciating all along.
Yeah. And I think it's like I don't know, it's the same thing with like, I guess, music in like a TV show or something. Like if a show always has like some like music or something in the background going on, you don't really pay attention to it until it's like one of those scenes where there's like absolutely no sound, like, and everything is super quiet, and like let's say you can like hear just like the person's footsteps walking on like some like tile floor, or like you can just hear like the gushing of the wind and all that. Like it really like, I don't know, it really like takes you, it really like takes you out, not like takes you out, but like in like the bad way, but like, I don't know, it reminds you that like, oh, there was all of these like sounds before, like where did all of that go? You know?
And that's a great technique for like building up tension, is you can add a complexity of the sound layers, and you're creating this really complex audio scene, and then drop it out, and then you're like, whoa, what just happened?
Mm-hmm. Did we do that in the film, or
that's kind of an important dramaturgical thing that happens is the power goes out. So we do that as part of the storytelling, and then so the mix isn't done yet. So kind of working on this concept of we want the life of the electricity humming to be there from the go, but we don't realize it. It's just there. Okay, we're not saying, oh, that's so loud, like that's so distracting. We just want it to be there so that when we take it away, it's very obvious and very concerning and awkward, and like the audience is like experiencing that, like, because it's hard for us to get inside the head of the character and be like, oh yeah, the power went out, but that's a big deal for them. They're dealing with these complex family issues, that the power outage is a real thing that they have to deal with it, but it's also metaphorically it's important. And so metaphorically, sound wise, we want to support that as much as possible and have the electricity, and then it's quiet. But we'll see how it turns out. I'm planning on doing something special there, but haven't done it yet. So we'll see how it turns out. You have to tell me as an audience member what you think.
Yeah. What's been your like favorite part, I guess, of working on this project?
Teaching students, honestly. I just love the process of learning and then seeing like these fairly complicated concepts come together, because sure, holding a boom mic seems, well, all you got to do is hold a boom mic, but why does it matter that we have the boom mic as close as possible to the actor? Why does it matter to have it pointed accurately? There's all of these fairly complicated, acoustic reasons for these things, just acoustics alone, and then the signal flow, of the mic to the recording device and the preamp, and why do we want the preamp to be set at this level versus louder or quieter? What's the what kind of headroom do we want? And just there's all this complex stuff that goes into it, and I want the students to understand as much as possibly as they can, so that when they hold that boom mic, which is ostensibly just a simple thing, there's layers of understanding behind that, and when that clicks, that's like a great feeling. I was like, okay, there's some real learning going on. So I really like that, and just being able to see the students like accomplish something is great, more so than like just doing it by myself.
Yeah. Is that like the reason why you became a professor?
Probably. It's a good question. I've been thinking about it a lot. I just like explaining things. I've always liked explaining things, and then just thinking about, okay, why is this way of explaining it better than this other way of explaining it? It's fascinating to me, and I'm by no means done learning how to teach, myself is going to be an ongoing thing for my life. Is how can I be better? How can I adjust my teaching style to match these various learning styles? So, but it's so interesting to me, and passing on of knowledge is so important to me, and the mentor-mentee relationship is so important to me, and like safeguarding the future of the art is important to me. That why should I care about the work that I do, the composing, and the how much I care about it if there's nobody coming up after me to carry it on? It's like,
Yeah.
I care very much about the future of the state of the art, not just like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I don't know, that's kind of how like techniques and like skills get kind of lost when someone doesn't, like, when there's nobody to pass that down to,
Yeah.
or I guess like even, in another way, like if there's nobody there to listen,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's especially important for like, especially important now, kind of in the wave of like AI and all of these different tools that can just do most of the work for you.
It makes it easy, but then if you don't fundamentally know, like, why do we do things in a certain way, then, like you said, that's lost. So if everyone just decides, oh, well, AI can do it for me, well, yeah, maybe, and definitely in some cases it can, but understanding why we do things a certain way, why the professional standards are the way that they are, why are these the best practices, and learning things from first principles. Like, AI is not going to teach you how to do things from first principles. It's just going to do the thing.
Yeah. You just tell it what to do, and then it'll just, spit out something, do it all for you.
Which is great. I am an early adopter. AI is so incredible and so useful, but when you treat it like a shortcut, you're kind of losing something.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know how we got there, but we're kind of free flowing in this conversation.
Yeah, no, I definitely kind of noticed that. But to bring it back to the Switch. What is one thing that is difficult about like sound work that maybe people who like don't really do much sound work, like, they wouldn't really think about?
That's a tough one. That's actually a good question. Well, one thing that I think about a lot is how much attention to detail we, working in the audio industry, we have to be careful. We have to be exacting. We have to, really just have our focus, in many cases, just be totally unflinching. And I think that the general feeling about audio and sound is that we're not that way. Sometimes we get this, people look at sound people and they're just like, oh, well, what you do is so easy, but it's very precise and very exacting. And because, one thing I always point out is, like, in theater, for example, you have your sound designers, you have your lighting designers. If the sound designer's not careful, it's totally possible and quite easy to accidentally play a sound that is so loud you could damage everybody's hearing in the entire theater. Because we're dealing with massive sound systems, and we're dealing with audiophiles that sometimes are maxed out to their loudest. Mm-hmm. You pair those two things together, and if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, you actually hit a button when everything is unmuted, boom, you're talking like literally you can damage people's hearing. So it's if we're not exacting like, okay, when I push this button, that's going to send a signal to this channel, and that's it, you know, and then you like just be very precise because you don't want accidents to happen. A lighting designer, what's the worst that's going to happen? People that are going to have light shined in their eyes, you know, it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, okay, everything's going to go dark and someone falls down the stairs. Okay, sure, there's that kind of stuff. But all I'm saying is we have to be so precise to the degree that it's definitely taken for granted, you know, that you know, we're dealing with electronics that are on this scale of like minute changes make a big difference. So there's that, but then there's also just complex signal flow and routing things that you know, you push one button, suddenly you're routing things all over the place, and then you have to go back into your settings and get things back to where they are. If you in the middle of a film shoot and you have, you know, however many mics active, 8 mics, you know, boom, you know, and then you accidentally hit a button and suddenly you stop recording and everybody is really upset at you because now you got to take the whole thing back again. Anyway, so that's what I would say is like just the level of precision is like you have to have a lot of like very razor focused like on your job, and don't ever let your mind wander. And then you have to have like a pretty, you know, like resolve, you know, that you're like able to just don't let things bother you, stay calm, because you're gonna have to do a lot of troubleshooting in tense moments. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't think I could do do something like that. I definitely, for me, like my mind wanders. It wanders a lot. If I need to focus on something for an extended amount of time, it's definitely a very difficult thing for me to do.
It's tricky. It's definitely tricky, and it takes it even doing it for a long time. You can't always keep your eye on the ball, you know.
Yeah, like sound design seems like one of those jobs where people don't notice it until like they like mess up or something.
That's exactly right. That is perfectly said. You know, it's at our best, we're invisible, and that's the way we want it. You know, we don't want people to say, you know, thinking about how great the sound design is when you have an actor on screen giving this amazing dramatic performance. You want them to be focusing on the actor. So at our best, we're invisible. And it's only when we're not at our best that people start to notice us. So it's, you know, it's kind of, you know, unfortunate, but that's the way that it is.
Yeah. I have one last question for you. And then that's probably it.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to help work with the Switch? Like help work on the Switch anyway?
Oh, that's a great question. It's like this perfect like handshake to have, and I think from now on I kind of want to set this as the way going forward. It's a perfect handshake to have the video production class and then a sound production class going at the same time. And you know, at UE we're like, it's so important to do it, that we have experiential learning and that we're really putting our knowledge, you know, we're applying our knowledge to something in the real world. And this is just the perfect opportunity. So, the fall video production class, the sound class that I had at the time, it just didn't align very well, or it just didn't occur to me. And then in the Creative Tech Showcase that I put on last December, we screened the video productions film in there, and then I realized, wait a second, we should be doing this every semester. That my sound class, whichever rotation we're in, apply part of that semester to working on the film. It's like this perfect handshake that when the video production class is going, let's have an audio production class going as well, and we'll work on it as a team.
That's great. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's nice for us, nice for our class. We don't have to worry about.
I mean, the class is called video production.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean?
I wouldn't want to have to worry about like all of the sound things and all of that other technology, because that's a whole nother beast on its own.
Exactly. Well, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah. I mean, of course, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate this. And that's it for today's episode of The Switch. Thank you for watching.